is Cindy from Stamped with Aloha. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to create a really beautiful box of note cards that I created with the September 2021 Haunts and Harvest Paper Pumpkin Kit. So let's go ahead and get started on today's project. So this month's Paper Pumpkin Kit came with all the supplies to create these adorable little pumpkin favors. Now I don't do a lot with Halloween, but I really love that you had the option of either doing something for Halloween or you could create these little favors for your Thanksgiving table or just for a really cute fall treat. So I chose to focus on the stamp set alone, and that's what I'm going to work with for today's alternative project. So today I'm going to be creating a mini paper pumpkin box with a set of 3 note cards and envelopes to go inside. And I chose a very non-traditional set of colors. I will be working with Blushing Bride, Cinnamon Cider that's been stamped off, and Soft Succulent. For the first step, I'm going to take a 3.5 by 5 1/8 piece of Blushing Bride cardstock, and I'm going to place that into my Timeworn tight embossing folder. So I'm going to place it in there, and then I'm going to run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. All right, after you bring it out of the machine, it is going to look like this, and it has this really beautiful texture. All right, let's start with some stamping. So I have a 2 by 3 1/4 piece of basic white cardstock. I'm going to use some smoky slate ink, and then I'm going to ink up this image from the Paper Pumpkin Kit. I'm going to go ahead and stamp one here, one over here, one here, and one over here. Then I'm going to take this image from the Paper Pumpkin Kit, and I'm going to bring a leaf this way, this way, this way. I think that looks good. Next, we're going to overlay some ink on top of those skeleton leaves, and I'm going to start with Soft Succulent. So I'm going to take and just do a full Soft Succulent leaf right there, and then I'm going to do Stamp Off and do a lighter version, a 2nd generation of ink right there, and then I'm going to Stamp Off and do a 2nd generation over here. Next, I have Blushing Bride, so I'm going to ink this up, and I'm going to stamp right over here, and I'm going to stamp it right over here. Then I'm going to clean my stamp, and then I'm going to switch my ink to Cinnamon Cider. Now I'm going to ink up the Cinnamon Cider, and I'm going to stamp it off, and then I'm going to come back and use a 2nd generation to make it lighter. And then I'm going to do that one more time, and I'm going to stamp it like that. Okay? So now we've covered that with some leaves, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece, we're going to place it back in the Timeworn type embossing folder, and I'm going to go and run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. All right, so now it's been embossed, and let's take a look at it. And you can see how beautiful that looks when you have a stamped piece of cardstock that you emboss. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work with one of the Scallop contour dies. And so I'm going to take this piece that we just stamped, and I'm going to glue it onto the top of this little die cut piece. Then I'm going to take out my Paper Pumpkin box. This is the front of it right here. And then I'm going to take this embossed piece of Blushing Bride, and I'm going to glue this to the front. Next, I'm going to take some dimensionals and place dimensionals on the back of this piece. Okay, I've removed the backing, and then I'm going to center this on the top of the box. Next, I have this little label that I die cut from the Tasteful label dies, and I'm going to stamp the word "Thank You" on it using the smoky slate ink. And then I'm going to take this little tag, I'm going to flip it over, I'm going to add some glue to the back, and then I'm going to glue this to a 3/4 inch by 2 1/4 piece of copper foil. Next, I'm going to place some dimensionals on the back of this piece. And I'm going to place this right in the center. Next, we're going to add some leaves that I stamped and fussy cut. We have one of each color. I'm going to start with the soft succulent leaf. I'm going to place a little bit of adhesive on the back. And I'm going to tuck this right here under the corner of the tag. And you'll notice that I've curled the leaves a little bit just to give them some texture. Then I'm going to take this cinnamon cider leaf, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to add a dimensional right here. And then I'm going to kind of overlap that succulent leaf just a tiny little bit. And I'm going to have that right there at the edge of the corner there. Okay, and then I'm going to take this blushing bride leaf. I'm going to flip it over. Again, I've curled it a little bit with my fingers to give it some texture and movement, and then I'm going to place that right up here in the top corner. Okay, and so the last thing that we want to do to our cute little box here is add these beautiful embellishments. Again, these are the brushed metallic adhesive back dots. These are in our current mini catalog, and I'm going to use one of each. So I'm going to start with a large copper one, and I'm going to place that right here. And then I'm going to pick up a smaller green one, and I'm going to place that up here. And then I'm going to take a smaller gold one, and I'm going to place that right over here. Okay? All right, so this box is done, and I've taken these exact same elements, this embossing folder, this color of ink, these embellishments, and the copper foil, and the scallop contour dies, and I've created 3 separate matching note cards. So let me show you the first one. So the first one looks very similar to the box. It has Blushing Bride cardstock that I've embossed with the same embossing folder, and then it features one of each of the die cut leaves, and I love the sentiment that says "You're a blessing." I've also used a smaller version of the scallop contour dies, and of course backed it up with some copper foil. For card number 2, I did a soft succulent background that I embossed. I then used the exact same scallop contour die as I did here and added the additional paper on top of that. Now I didn't emboss, so you can see the difference between this one that hasn't been embossed and then this one that was run through the embossing machine with the Timeworn type embossing folder to add that extra texture. And then I used the sentiment "You're a blessing" and then just put one fussy cut leaf right there. And then the third one is now my cinnamon cider card. This one I left the background plain, but then I stamped on a 2-inch strip of basic white cardstock, and I not only added the leaves from the stamp set, but I also added that little accent stamp that I stamped off. So I had a second generation of the soft succulent ink there. And then here is a smaller piece from the scallop contour dies, which I stamped with the words "Thank you" and added my 3 embellishments. So I love creating things like this where there's balance, where they all have a little bit of copper, they all feature these pretty colors, and they all have the same amount of embellishments, and they all use a similar die set. So then you have these 3 beautiful cards. You would just partner them together with some stamped envelopes, and then you can place them inside the box. You could add other little treats if you wanted. A little package of hot cider or something maybe would be fun. And then you have this really beautiful set of note cards. Well, if you're someone like me and you don't live in a place where you can see the leaves changing and you're really missing seeing that at this time of the year, then one fun thing that you could do is just stamp your own leaves, and then you could include these inside one of these cards inside the box, and so that the recipient will have their own little surprise of falling leaves when they open up their project. Well, I had a lot of fun sharing this project with you today, and I just want to share one other idea with you, and that is this card right here. So this card uses many of the elements that I shared with you today, but it also uses this die here, and this die is from the Pretty Pumpkins bundle, which is the Pretty Pumpkins stamp set that coordinates with the detailed pumpkin dies. Now the detailed pumpkin dies do have dies that will die cut these pieces out, but there's also some additional dies in the set, like this one here and like this one here, as well as this cute pumpkin one here, so that you can create some really cute pumpkins. And this die set and stamp set coordinates really nicely with the Haunts and Harvest Paper Pumpkin Kit. Well, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by to watch my video today. I hope that you enjoyed learning how to make this project. I look forward to sharing another project with you real soon, so be sure to come back and check out my next video. Until then, aloha.